All right, welcome back. We are about to write a new spec, and we are going to do this because we have specifically found kind of a bug in the code. And whenever you find a bug in code, the best thing that you can do um, is first of all ask for a reproduction, make sure that it's reproducible, but assuming that it can be reproduced and it's kind of confirmed as some quantifiable thing that's happening. When I click this happens, but this other thing should happen. It's very clear. The first thing that you want to do is add a failing test that kind of captures this behavior and makes it very clear. Here's the input, this should be the output, but here's what we got instead. And from that failing test case, you can begin to write or refactor or change whatever production code needs to be changed or written or refactored to make that test pass. So here's what we've got. And this actually is related to some code that I think we wrote in a previous video, but you'll know better than me because you're watching the videos probably in order, and you can say, oh yeah, in video 2 we did that. It's kind of like when you binge watch an entire season of a cool show. It's just much easier to recall specific nuances from previous episodes. So depending on you, dear listener, dear watcher, to connect the dots for me. So here's what we've got. We added in some logic that said, first of all, because secondary members are not required to enter in their residency, enter in where they lived throughout the year, and we're just kind of copying it from the primary member's residence. And here you can see this person lived in let's see, what are we even talking about? This person lived in this county in these months, and then October, November, December lived in this other county. We want to make sure that the final payload that we get includes the same exact combination of residences. And so, we can test that with our end-to-end testing. We can do that. We can put in this kind of exact scenario where someone lives in these months in this kind of configuration. But I think probably what the better thing may be to do is go up to our household form and go to this method that we added previously. Yes, yesterday. Okay, so I think I did this yesterday, and just kind of add a spec here, kind of add a way to test this. And what I like to do in these situations is go to kind of make a jest test that really tests the pure logic of this change. And so I think what we're going to do is kind of go to our utility folder, because I can see this living as a utility. And I like this folder, which apparently exists but doesn't have anything in it. It must only exist on my system. And we're gonna add a pure function, and we're gonna call it, let's say, duplicate residences.ts. And we are going to, at the same time, write, add another file, duplicate residences.spec.ts, because in Angular and in a lot of front-end repositories like this, we co-locate the specs with the files that they test. And so you don't have to go to some other file or some other folder somewhere and hope that they're named the same. They just live right next to each other. And so, great. We're going to put our spec over here, and we're just going to collapse it for a minute and put our actual file here. And really what we want to do is we want to first of all, make sure that we have the right file open, which was our household service. And we want to bring that down here. So we've got this household service, and this is the logic that we basically want to test. And we want to write a function that takes in some value and transforms it to some other value. And in this context, we're going to use a pure function. A pure function is simply one that, given the same input, always has the same output and doesn't have any side effects. So there's no API calls made. There's no, there's nothing that would affect any kind of global state. It is just data in, data out. And if the same data comes in, the same kind of thing happens to that data. So given the same input, you'll always get the same output, and there are no side effects. This is a pure function. And pure functions are really, really easy to test. Now, we might have many different test cases because we might have many different types of inputs, but given the same input, we get the same output, and there's no side effects. So we don't have to worry about, oh, if the input is this, the side effect might do something, and we need to control for that. So we don't have to worry about that. So first of all, I'm going to kind of try to do test-driven development with this using a Jest spec. The first thing that I think I probably want to do is I'm going to break out of my end-to-end test, and I'm going to go test. What is this? The SLCSP calculator household form. And we're going to just quickly do a describe block, duplicate residences, and we're going to jump into this. So we're going to do like an it block here, and should return. Just love GitHub Copilot. Should return an empty array if no residences are passed in. Sure, let's do that. And then duplicate residences, we're going to do that over here. Export const equals duplicate residences. Whoops, we don't need the equal operator there. We need it here, equals an array of residences, and we want to return an array of those residences. Now, as I do this, I wonder if we can, as we build this up, if we can kind of spot the error in logic, or I guess I'm not even sure what I'm trying to say. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say, like, we're just copying the members' residences to all of the secondary members, and it would seem like that's just a really basic thing. But why is it not working? Well, who knows? I didn't have a spec, and so I should have had a spec, and so I'm going to write one now. And this is obviously at this point like writing a spec or writing a test after the fact, but that's okay. We can still kind of go through the exercise of test-driven development. So what is the input? Is it residences, or should it actually be the array of household members? Maybe we want to pass in an array of household members and get back an array of household members with these updated residences. So maybe that's a better place to start. We'll still call this duplicate residences, but instead we're going to pass members, and we're going to pass household member array. Great, automatically input or imported that. And we are going to also return an array of household members. And let's see. Oop, don't do that yet. Sometimes GitHub Copilot is like too good, and it just like gives you the answer. It doesn't give you time to think about it. But that's fine. I guess this is a thing that we're going to face much more in the future, and so we just need to get used to it, right? We just need to deal with it, as they say. All right. So the first thing that we're going to do is, can we just return an empty array as household member array? Does that work? I think the only thing that it's not going to like is the way that we format that. So that's fine. And it should return an empty array if no residences are passed in. Let's import this function. Why is that not importing? So it should just import it from the duplicate residences. Import. Yeah, there we go. Cool. All right, so let's just do that. It doesn't like that I didn't close my curly braces. And so let's do that. All right, so now at this point, let's do expect result, something length, to have length 2. So remember, we want to start off with a failing spec. And why is that? Well, you know, in that initially passing spec, we might, npx nx test, we might get the impression that our spec has passed and great, we're good. But it might be for some other reason. Maybe we made like a bad assertion, and slcsp calculator, there we go. You know, it might have just been like a weird assertion that we made and it was always going to pass. So we just want to make sure, you know, that something fails, right? That something fails, and then we can make it pass, and then refactor, make it fail, make it pass, refactor, make it fail, make it pass, so on and so forth. And so now Jest has failed. It says should return an empty array. Expected length was 2, received length was 0, received array, empty array. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually filter by a file name regex pattern, and we're going to put in duplicate residences, just so I think this is actually the only spec in this file or in this library. Don't tell anybody, but we just want to run this one. So just to make sure we do that. All right. Cool. So now if we change this to 0, what does it do? It passes. Sweet. All right. So now we've got this down here. I think I can close this temporarily, and we will we'll kind of do that. We might like move this up and down to get a better picture, especially when the spec fails and we want to see exactly how it's failed. All right, so that's the first spec that we want to do. Const result equals duplicate residences. So we're kind of assigning the output of duplicate residences to the result, and we're saying, hey, you know what? If you pass it in with an empty array, it should have nothing. Let's see what Copilot can figure out. It should return an array with the same number of residences as were passed in. Interesting. I don't know if that's a super high value thing to test for. Let's say should return an array with the primary, with the same, what are we going to say? So basically, we want the secondary residences or the secondary members in the household to have the same residence as the primary member. So what happens if there's only one member, right? Only one member. Let's do this. So the first thing that we want to do is get rid of this. And remember, as we start to build up these tests, we need to make sure that they all continue to pass. So this passed the first time, it still needs to continue to pass. So we're going to say const primary member residence. And actually, look at this. We kind of have some of this logic made for us already. So what if we did, what if we just kind of grabbed this and started to use it as a way to get going? So primary member residence, we don't need the original form values because we actually already know, we don't get the form value, we just get the members. And actually, this feels a little weird to be accessing this through an index. And maybe we should do this first. So let's just right off the bat get the primary member and the secondary members. And if there is only one primary member, if there is only one member in the array, we should probably just return return the primary member, right? So if secondary members, so we want to get this first one to still pass. So we should probably assert on both. So like if primary member return empty, right? Uh-oh, our test is still failing. Why? Probably because we did as household member array. So we just want to make sure we assert on that. Let's see if we still get, let's see. All right, I think what it wants is basically there isn't, not all code paths return a value, and I bet that's what this is going to say. Function lacks ending return statement and return type does not include undefined. So, you know, it's a pure function, it's got to return something, and so we want to kind of say return primary member, right? I think that was just there. Okay, cool. So everything passed. Now, so we've added a little bit of code and we've ensured that this first spec continues to pass. So we're kind of saying, hey, we've got the very first thing that we're going to do is destructure the array. We're going to get the primary member and all secondary members. And just right off the bat, you know, if the primary member doesn't even exist, like if this array is an empty array, by the way, we also could have done like if members dot length equals 0, you know, that's another way to do it. Maybe this is just about readability. Most people would think like, oh, members dot length, it doesn't exist. But you know, maybe for readability's sake, we say primary member equals undefined, right? So if the primary member is undefined, which you would get from destructuring this list, then hey, just return an empty array because you might as well give up on life. No, don't give up on life. Use TypeScript and it'll be okay. So our return statement is going to return the primary member. Well, we've already kind of added a little bit of additional code here that we're not testing for. So let's make sure that we do that. So what is the test case? Well, if there is only a primary member, should return the primary member if only a primary member is passed in. And that's a little bit verbose, but we're going to roll with it and say const result equals duplicate residences with some member, expect result to have length 1. So that would be true. And guess what? We didn't pass anything in here. And so it can have length 1 because we haven't passed anything in here. All right, so now we need to talk a little bit about mocking. Where are we going to get this primary member? Well, here would be an option. We do have the testing library, which we have used in support of our end-to-end specs. And wouldn't it be convenient to grab household member 1 from no, that's fine. We don't need to do that. Wouldn't it be nice to grab household member 1 from the testing library? Yes, it would. So let's do that. We're going to add that import. And what does it say? Circular dependency. Oh, no. That's not great. So what are we going to do about this? Well, first of all, is this a circular dependency? Let's just restart TypeScript and ESLint because it's actually a linting rule. In the off chance that something is not actually accurate about that, and is that possible that the testing library we can use here? Yeah, I think that is exactly what happened. Cool. Well, we dodged a bullet on that one, y'all, because I did not want to troubleshoot a circular dependency during this live stream. Super cool. All right, so we've got that imported, and now look, our test passes. Great, because really all that we were doing was saying, hey, return the primary member. That's it. But we need to do a little bit more than that, right? We need to expect that we just need to expect now something a little bit more than just that the primary member is returned. So for example, it should return, oh, by the way, let's actually, before we do that, we're only asserting that the result has a length of 1. Should we, at this point, make an assertion on the exact output of the duplicate resonances function? Maybe. But at this point, we're really just taking the primary member and returning the primary member. So at this point, we really haven't done any logic. Well, maybe not none, but there's really not a lot of logic to test. So I think saying, hey, expect it to have length 1 is pretty okay right now. So what's the next thing that we're going to do? Well, it should return the primary member and duplicate the primary member resonances. Ooh, what does this say? To all other members. Yes, GitHub Copilot. Yes. That's awesome. And that is exactly what it should do. So first of all, const result equals duplicate resonances, and we are going to expect the result to have a length of 2, and let's pass in household member 1 and household member 2, which we can also import, and now we've got both household member 1 and household member 2. And does it have a length of 2? Well, no, it doesn't. It only has a length of 1 because we haven't written the code to make this test pass. Isn't test-driven development awesome? Yes, it is. All right. So we've got our primary member and secondary members destructured up here. We're saying if the primary member is undefined, just return the whole thing. And now what we need to do is, you know what? Hey, we only have to make this test pass, right? To have length 2. Here we go. Secondary members, right? And if we've passed it 2 members, then our test passes. Fantastic. We have made it pass, and that is fantastic. Are we done? Well, no. This is probably the point at which we should start investigating the content of those secondary members. And so let's do this. Let's add an assertion. And let's say, so what should we do? We should get the primary and the secondary member from the result, from the output result. And let's make sure that, I guess for right now, maybe we'll just check the secondary members instead of getting them all. Let's expect primary member dot resonances. Do we go this far? Do we go all the way through? Let's see. Maybe we can get const primary member resonances, const secondary member resonances. Okay, so we've grabbed both residences. All right. So first of all, expect primary member residences dot length to equal secondary member residences dot length. Does that pass? Yes, it passes. All right. So I guess what we want to start doing is we want to start working towards an assertion that is going to fail, because we have to put something that fails here so that we can come back to the function and change the function to make the test pass. So, so far these are the same. That's fine. The lengths equal each other. That's awesome. You know what might help here is, what if we brought this over here, and what if we actually opened up household member 1 and just make sure. So let's see, county, months, that's awesome. Does household member also have, yeah, all right, so they actually have the same thing. You know what we should do here is we should change all of these to false, right? Because right now they're just already the same. 0403 Cumberland County, true, all true. So let's just make sure that all of these are false. That way we know their initial state is totally different. And when we make this next assertion, that we can actually say, yes, these are the same now. So I think the next thing that I want to do is primary member residences for each. Should we do a for each kind of assertion loop here? Oh, you know what? Unicorn is going to say, do this instead. That's totally fine. We actually don't need the index. So for each primary residence, and these are going to be a residence, we are going to expect, that would work. So secondary member residence equals secondary member residences dot find. So it's going to loop through every residence and look at the residence ID. There isn't an ID property on this object GitHub Copilot, which you should totally know because you have access to the types. So we're not going to do that. Let's rethink this and let's talk about, let's talk about what we actually want it to do. So we want to check, first of all, that this is an array. So we could certainly loop over the array and kind of do like an element by element comparison. Or we might want to check, we might want to make it a little bit simpler and just check the first element in the array. So maybe we say const first residence equals primary member residences, const first residence. So let's see, residence 1 primary, residence 1 secondary. So we're kind of like destructuring the first and second elements, or the first element from each of the arrays. And now, could we do that? Oh, residence. Yeah, there we go. Does that work? Oh boy. Haha, nice. All right, cool. So to equal, use when you want to check that two objects have the same value. This matcher recursively checks the equality of all fields rather than checking for identity, object identity. Actually, you can provide a type for the expected value via generic. It's particularly useful for ensuring expected objects have the right structure. That is so cool. So to equal is the exact way to assert that these two things are the same. And so right off the bat, you can see, hey, these objects are not the same. It looked at the counties and those are the same, but these are all false when they should have been true. All right, we have a failing spec that we can now write some code to fix. All right, now what you're probably thinking is, hey, there could be more than one residence, and you're not wrong, but this is just the simplest thing. This is just the simplest way to get to a failing spec where we can add some production code to begin to fix it. So, all right, so we're not going to return the primary and secondary members because obviously that doesn't do the duplication. Instead, what we're going to do is I think we're going to grab this thing down here, and we are going to, let's see, do we need the whole thing? Let's see, new secondary members, which is we do want to return a new array of household members. We're going to map over the secondary members. And for each member, we are going to return the member, but we are going to overwrite the primary member residences. I kind of like that. Actually, really kind of like that. And new secondary members, let's do this. Let's say const, actually, let's grab this whole thing and we'll say const new secondary members. And what is this telling me? Residence, primary member residence. Oh, that we did not grab the primary member residence. Cool. Okay, so that's fine. We'll grab const primary. Now I guess we need to do this here, which we won't do in exactly the same way. Primary member residence is just primary member dot residences. Okay, and then we can return the primary member and the new secondary members. Let's see what we get here. Okay, so that actually worked. Cool. We now have the same residences across all of our additional members. Is there a whole lot else to test here? Potentially. Are there other scenarios which we need to test? Well, should we test with many members? I think that would require us to do a little bit of generalization here to loop over all of the secondary members and to probably not have a hard-coded length here. So make sure that the length is actually the length of this array, which is okay. I'm pretty comfortable though doing this, which is, hey, instead of us grabbing all of this, so we want the original form members. This is the thing that we want to actually pass in over here. I'm going to put this over here, and what we want to do is say, so this is returning us the primary member and the new secondary members. Duplicate residences across secondary members. Let's do that. Okay, I know that's really verbose. Whoa, duplicate residences across secondary members, but doesn't it make it just abundantly clear what this function does? Yes, it does. So what we want to do here is actually say, whoops, duplicate residences across secondary members and pass that in, and then look what we can do. Done. Right? The test should still pass. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry. Module has no exported member. That's really weird. Guess we don't need that anymore. What is it complaining about, honestly? Module duplicate residences has no exported member. Well, yes, it surely does. Let's break out of that and just go back into it. Sometimes TypeScript can just not be right. Yeah, look at that. So everything still passes, no problem there. And And let's see here. So probably the last thing that we want to do, at least as far as this video goes, is just double check. You know, we've really only just done refactoring. We haven't really changed the way things worked. And that's important because, you know, even though I think we're experiencing a bug in the application, it's probably not with this logic. Okay, it's probably not with the way this logic is built up. So let's break out of the Jest testing. Oops. So we'll break out of that, and we'll head back over to the end-to-end testing and just double check, because we did make one significant change, and that was to our household member, our secondary household member, where we changed their kind of like initial payload to this all empty. By the way, I don't think I can make this completely empty, right? No, I can. Haha, sweet. Maybe that's better. You know, maybe that's a better idea, is just make that empty so there's no chance that anything comes in, you know, as far as like existing data. All right, so we've got, let's start testing. Let's bring over our test suite. Let's go through the one member household. This probably will not have any impact on anything, right? Because there's only one member in the household. Now, moment of truth, here we go. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. Ooh, interesting. So we did get an error here, right? And why is that? Well, oh, I know why this is. It's because we are, oh, you probably knew this way ahead of me. And dang it. You probably could have said to me like 10 minutes ago, hey, don't change that, don't change that. Because this is the final form value that we're entering. This is the thing that we want to actually be the same. And so what we actually need to do is revert this change. Yeah, we need to go back here, and while I'm at it, let's do npx nx test slcsp household slcsp calculator household form watch. So I am so sorry, and you probably all saw this way before it happened. The idea here is that we need this. Oh, what's going on there? That's interesting. That's so weird why it would even care about that. That's so wild. Okay, I don't think that has anything to do with the test here. In fact, I am going to break out of this and like open up a new terminal, because I think that was left over. So npx nx test slcsp calculator household form watch. Very cool. You know, if all of this just gave us a better understanding for, yeah, that's cool. So that all passed, no problem. If all of this just gave us a better understanding for how to do test-driven development with Jest, totally fine. I was really hoping we'd find some sort of bug, but we didn't. That's okay. I am going to leave this payload in there. We're going to, you know, we can definitely, oops, let's make sure that we have the order of these imports correct. Yep, that all looks fine. Oh, that's really long. Duplicate residences across secondary members. Whatever. It is what it is. And all of our other stuff looks good. Let's make sure that we do npx nx format right. So we clean up our files, and so just to be clear, one member household, still no issues, and two member household, back to there being no issues. That's cool. And I guess the only thing that we need to think about, maybe in the next video, or maybe as we start to explore other ways to reveal this bug, which we'll look into a little bit more in the next video, is you you know, is there a reason to potentially change the source of these household members? So these household members are built up from the perspective of this is what the final payload should look like. But is this really, are these really good mocks for what the form values will look like? Well, no, they're not. And so I'm kind of thinking to myself, maybe these should be renamed like household member one final value, or something like that, where like it's very clear this is the this is the state the household member should be in when it's sent to the back end, not the state that it's in at the end of the form process. Okay, just something to think about. Anyway, so we've got these in here now. We'll commit and we'll save and we'll push, and we will be back with another video very soon.